Now, I don't know much about figs, to tell you the truth. I was at the store the other day because Krista's been gone, so, the refrigerator did not replenish itself. I knew I had to get a new refrigerator. So I'm looking to buy some food, and I'm walking through the store, and I see figs. And I'm looking at them in this box. I'm going, man, I've heard so much about figs. I've been talking about figs and Jeremiah and figs, and I have no idea what a fig tree looks like. I really don't know what the fruit looks like when it's first on the. Is it a tree? Is it a bush? I think it's a tree, but I don't know about figs, and I don't even know whether I like figs. I like fig Newtons, but I'm not sure whether there are real figs in fig Newtons or some other material that's been manufactured in a chemical plant somewhere, right? So, when I think about this, I think of tomatoes. Now, I know tomatoes. My dad grew tomatoes that were just amazing. We were one of those people in our neighborhood that he had many tomatoes and cucumbers that I was the one, at age 8 or 9 that had to load up some big baskets and walk through the neighborhood and knock on people's doors and say, would you like some tomatoes? Would you like some cucumbers? We got so many we don't know what to do with them. I know tomatoes. I have not successfully in my adult years grown tomatoes. But I do know a little bit about them, and I know that they're, in my mind, and maybe it's because it's wrapped up in my childhood, but there is nothing that I can think of that just tastes so good that on a late July, early August day, you go out to the garden with your thing of salt, and you go out, and let's forget about washing the tomato. At best, you might take a rag, or you might just give it the, right? And you pick it, and you salt it, and you bite it, and it tastes like no tomato you could ever buy in the store. It's, oh yeah. That's the good figs. The bad figs, when I was a kid, again, in my father's garden, there was so much stuff left over by the end of the year, and before the first frost came and so forth, usually like around in October or something like that, my dad would say, we got to level the garden. He grew corn and all kinds of things, so we had to take care of it. Well, we had this great way for taking care of it, and that was all the guys in the neighborhood would get together. You could pull the corn stalks out and beat each other with them. And there were always at least 2 or 3 dozen rotten tomatoes, just all shriveled up, and kind of brown towards the top. It's still dark red. And you could throw them at each other. It was great. I will never forget the fact that I was the youngest kid in the neighborhood, in the group of guys that were there, and the big guy, Wally Sherbon. Wally, if you're watching, call me. I haven't talked to you for 52 years. Okay, so I was the youngest and smallest kid in the neighborhood. Wally was the biggest. Everybody else was bigger than me. So here we are in the midst of the warfare of the garden. And corn stalks are flying and tomatoes are flying. And the best thing I could do, I was probably about 6 years old at the time, was I took a tomato and I would just do this and hope it would land somewhere. And wouldn't you know it, Wally Sherbon, who in those days had a buzz cut. I mean, he might have had a little bit here, but there was no hair to protect his head. It went straight up in the air and it landed whap right here. I became a celebrity in the neighborhood because of the day that I got Wally Sherbon on the top of his head, right? Oh, it smelled horrible. It was sticky. It was, taking a bath after that was just like, oh my gosh. My mom would go, just leave the clothes outside, okay?